OtraXFavor. This is one more, please. How y'all doing today?
Great. How are you?
Nervous.
You know, it's been a day. Like I've had problems with the camera, but I've never had a problem with the space in the computer. And I just realized I was uploading an episode and it was a pretty big file. So that pretty much took me 20 minutes to figure it out and had to move some stuff around, but
All good. Hey, we're always happy when beverages are provided.
there you go.
Everywhere we go. If you
Cheers,
provide
cheers.
beverages, we're going to show up. So thank you.
And welcome to Otra, por favor. My name is Richie. As you guys know, this podcast is about football, vida and cultura, soccer, life and culture. Today I have the honor of hosting two of my favorite people, like in Austin. I think not at the moment, but you guys are like one of my favorite couples that I like to always
At the
be
moment,
around.
I mean, we got to fight for it. You know?
So
we got to keep it up.
I like
the
a lot of
rankings.
couples, but like I think like you guys are always together doing stuff, and you guys are always doing some pretty cool things. So today today's gonna be a little bit of a celebratory type of episode. If you're listening to this episode, you might be listening to it before at the end of the year, like the end of this year, or at the beginning of 2024. And I'm pretty sure we're gonna have an awesome story from you guys, how y'all met, and also how do you guys get involved with doing all these amazing things you guys constantly do almost every other weekend or every weekend. And I met Dani, I would say 2 years ago. It was during the Pasión Verde documentary, which I would drop the link. And then after that, you became my boss, I would say, as a La Murga team
go to our head,
director.
you know.
No, you were amazing. You always had our back. Like, and we needed something, you always checked on us, which is cool. I think for even if it's a nonprofit or you're not doing it for money, having someone there that's actually always constantly like checking you guys out, like it's great. So Dani, thank you. And then Sean is married to Dani. You're a DJ with several radio stations in Austin. Well, Austin, Houston.
Yep, Austin and Houston. I do afternoons for Mix 94.7 here in Austin. I'm on from 3 to 9. And then I also do nights for our sister station in Houston. Don't hold that against me, FC fans. But I'm also on in Houston from 7 to midnight weeknights. So
Hey, I'm pretty sure you had the job before the team, so it's all good.
It's true.
Hey,
I love Houston too. The people in Houston are super nice. So
a 20 is a 20. That's what I would say.
that's right.
And before anything, and then we move forward to the episode, I just want to say thank you to everyone that checks out our content, whether it's on YouTube, Spotify, Golds TV, everywhere you get your podcast and you listen to us. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. It's been an amazing year, busy year, full of roller coaster like always. But the fact that like it's ending on a high note for this podcast with you guys, it's amazing.
Let's see how we do first. Let's not oversell it.
So
see.
The thing is, like, I'm selling it because you guys will deliver. That's why.
Okay. All right. Now the pressure's really on.
Oh,
I need
yeah.
a second drink to
Hey.
step up.
En Otra, por favor, that's what it's called. Otra, por favor. One more, please. Before, we go into your work, can the audience get to know a little bit about you guys and introduce yourselves? Where are you originally from, and how did your childhood shape the person you are today?
Sure. Do you want to start?
You can go ahead.
Okay. I'm Sean, obviously. Dani would be her. So I originally from North Carolina. I grew up in North Carolina until I was about 13, and then I kind of moved around a little bit on the East Coast. And then went to college in New York for broadcast journalism, and then started in college radio. And then after that, I kind of fell in love with radio. I was always like that kid who called into radio stations and tried to win things every day and make requests and annoy the DJs and stuff like that. So this was the only thing I ever wanted to do. So I'm very fortunate in being able to do the one thing I ever wanted to do. After college, I moved to Atlanta and did radio. Then I've lived in Charleston, South Carolina, Destin, Florida, and now I've lived here in Austin for it'll be 7 years next month. And yeah, basically growing up, like I kind of just referenced there, growing up being a lover of radio and kind of the magic of radio and listening to it. And then I would listen at night with like my dad, like going to, basketball games in North Carolina and kind of hearing like these faraway places and be like, I can't believe like I could hear people talking from, 4 or 5 states away. And they're like on my little radio in the car or driving around. And it was just magic to me. And that was kind of, formed my love of radio and really, sparked my, passion for getting into the profession that I'm in today. So I'm very fortunate to be able to do it, for a living, which is great.
That's cool. And Dani?
I'm from Chicago.
Hey, Chi-Town.
I went to school for business administration, did nothing with that. I currently work in advertising. I'm a freelance photographer and a mental health advocate.
Nice. Which from all the concerts you've done this year, like shooting, which has been like your favorite one?
My favorite concert, I feel like ACL.
Yeah.
Shooting the Yeah is my favorite because that's like one of the bands that I actually like.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like dancing the whole time while I was shooting. And Karen O, she does some, like she moves around a lot. Mm-hmm. So she was like putting her mic down her throat and she was just like, yeah.
In a PG way.
But it was just so, I was just so engaged, like being a photographer and just, you want that shot. And she's just amazing.
Yeah, Dani does amazing photography for my radio station also. That's why she was shooting at ACL and she's an amazing concert photographer.
So if you guys see like, on Sean's IG and you guys see all those amazing pictures, it's because of Dani.
Yeah, 100%. Yes. No, I'm very fortunate to be married to a photographer who makes me look much cooler than I really am. So
well, one thing like I always see is you guys are always doing like stuff like every weekend. We just at the end of the day, it's like enjoying life. And I think that's something like for me, like social media has 2 ways of being, where it can be very toxic and very like, cutthroat and, people BSing on people. But there's also like what you guys are doing or similar to other people with just having fun and enjoying life. And that's pretty cool. Like, I think there's times that like, for me, I could have like say once my green card comes in, knocking on wood,
yes.
Manifesting. Like I've seen you guys story, like Instagram posts and stories, and it's like motivating to like, man, I'm looking forward to it. Like do whatever. And I might be asking like you guys questions. Hey, have you guys been here? Have you guys been here?
Yeah.
So just stay on the lookout for my texts.
Yeah, no, for sure. Thank you for saying that. That actually means a lot to hear that from somebody. I think I can speak for Dani and she can speak for herself, obviously. But obviously, I think we also feel that, social media is an important tool in our lives and it shows just an aspect of who we are.
It's just a little bit.
Yes.
The tiniest bit.
But I think we also live a very real, normal life like everybody else does where we argue over dishes and,
Nobody posts the bad stuff. You're never going to see the bad stuff. So just remember that social media is this much of somebody's life. A lot of it is not.
Yeah, and like we'll do posts, like we'll go take pictures in really exotic places and stuff like that. But then obviously, like I mentioned, Dani's a photographer. Those are edited photos. Those are, little things cleared up or little smudges I have, on my face that disappears magically.
Nobody's life is perfect. Don't believe anybody that tells you that. And it's also bittersweet because I stay busy because in my head, if I stay busy, I won't have time to be sad. So it's a toxic way of being. But it's the way it's a
coping mechanism.
Yeah. But like, I mean, looking into that, like I'm very similar. For me, is if I don't record, like if I don't record in a week or 2 weeks, like 3 weeks max, I feel it, Or if I don't play soccer, my body feels it. Yeah. But I think it's part of it. Like some people cope with like mental health is different. Like some have to stay busy, some want to be at home, and all of those are okay. I think it's just whatever works for you, as long as you're doing legal stuff though.
Right.
Yeah, no.
We have been so far. We've been legal, so
it's
good. Yeah, I think I agree. I think everybody has their own personal journey, and they find their own personal ways of coping. But to that point, obviously, if you're in a situation mentally where you're in a rough spot, don't be afraid to reach out to other people to be like, hey, how do you deal with this situation? How do you cope when this happened to you? And it might not work for them, but it could be something that might trigger something in their mind where they're like, oh, that's a decent idea. Maybe I'll try like some kind of, version of that works for me personally.
Mm.
And that's why I try to make every post meaningful. Some of my friends call me the mental health influencer because it may be a pretty picture, but I try to make sure that every post is helpful, like I want it to be more than hashtag selfie, Yeah. But I mean, if you want to do that, that's cool, whatever.
There's like social media, like with that, I think sometimes building a theme for what you post, I mean, it helps on, I'm pretty sure someone out there reads what you post and they need that help. And just by reading it or just by looking at, like someone smiling, like, okay, there's a motivation there, or there's something that can help me, or I don't know, like I just always think of it as like just having those meaningful posts. Like they do something that like in there's a Bible verse, it's called in Spanish, it's like mi pueblo perece por falta de sabiduría. It's like our people will perish or will be destroyed without knowledge. But I think sometimes posting stuff when you have knowledge, it helps on someone not missing out on some knowledge.
Yeah. And I hate to use this term because it's you're gonna roll your eyes, but like it comes down to branding, and like you're probably like, oh, branding, but it to me, branding means what am I going to expect from you when I see your posts or when I meet you, or like what is your brand? To me, your brand is like your authentic self. Like who are you? And when I go to your posts, am I going to find out who you really are, or am I going to see some picture that's like nothing and then another picture of nothing? And after a while, people start tuning out of that because you're not authentic. You're not being like the real person. And again, this kind of like doesn't jive with what I was just saying about our pictures being edited and stuff like that. But to Dani's point, like she tries to make sure when she talks about things, it's always from her heart and she's always real. And I think that's what will draw people back. To anybody listening and anybody watching, I think I would encourage them to just be their authentic self, no matter, and don't care what other people think. Like just be who you are, because there's only one you, and the world needs you, whatever you are, whatever your brand is.
That's like, what do you call it? Just perfect for a reel right there.
Edit. Make my eyes look good.
I got you.
Lighting. Thank you. Yeah, it's very important.
I put a Dodgers.
That's right.
Like that's like when it comes to team and branding. Like say I have friends, and the person behind, like right now, and the back scenes here is Duke. He threw out a 30-day challenge, and nothing but videos.
That was awesome.
And it's like just having something fun. Like,
and I look forward to that every day. Yeah, not just saying that because he's in the room with us, right? Like it was something where I was like, oh yeah, he's doing this thing, and like this is the next version of that thing. And again, like I said, it comes back to branding and setting that expectation for your audience, and knowing that when they come to your page, that's what they're going to find.
I want to see what people think, like with my stuff. I like doing random stuff times, like
that's good too. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
There's a picture of my chicken that had like the peso pluma haircut.
Wait, I missed this.
It's no, it wasn't. We
drop the link on that.
I'll put the link in it. But it was my wife. She was talking about it, and then we were at a friend's, like in a friend's house, and they were talking about chickens, and my wife was like, "Yeah, we have to give up one of ours because we don't want to have roosters. We only want to have hens because the roosters want to wake you up at 6 a.m. and you have neighbors like you don't want to wake them up, so we had to give them away. We just keep hens, but that dude had like the pretty cool haircut. It's like nice and puffy. But yeah, like anyways, talking about other things. I want to like hear about how you guys meet. What sparked the interest to hey, get to know each other, and who started the
We met on Bumble.
I
was just finishing up a divorce, and he had just moved here. I had no business being on dating apps at the time, but it was like one of those, my friends set it up, and it was like a to-do divorce thing. So we met up at Key Bar.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really like him.
Well, we started talking on Bumble, and if you're unfamiliar with Bumble, the woman has to make the first move. The woman has to talk to you first. So she reached out to me, and we chit chatted, and then I think it was the first week, right, where we met.
Yeah, it was the first week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was a Friday night.
Yeah.
And
he was supposed to. Well, I thought he was going to meet me out earlier, so I was out like at 7 p.m. drinking already. So I was already drunk by the time he met up with me, like 11.
Yeah.
And I didn't like it. I never thought I was going to see him again because he threw away my shots.
You threw away her shots?
He threw away my shot.
So she bought me a shot. This is where the story gets kind of like he said, she said, because she bought this shot for me.
Yeah.
And she claims that it was a shot that I would do this drink.
You would have.
Yes.
Now you would have.
No, I would have done it then because it was like a mixed drink like this. I don't do straight liquor shots. I don't. Okay. And I swear you either bought me vodka or tequila.
No.
Something where I couldn't even.
I remember what it was.
I couldn't even be like, oh yeah, I'll do this.
It was the only thing that I was drinking at that time, like Starfuckers. Have you ever had a Starfucker? It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
It was.
I would have drank that. See, that's that. This is where we differ because I feel like I would have drank that.
And he did it like in a way where like he.
I tried to do it smoothly.
He tried, but I saw him from across the bar. I was just like, this motherfucker threw out my shot.
It was in a plant, but the plant got
drunk.
That drink was,
so
yeah.
After that, I was like, oh yeah, probably not gonna see this guy here, you fucking weirdo. But I.
What was that? Because I didn't do the shot, and now I'm a weirdo.
But would you be mad if somebody threw away your shot? Like, at least give it to me.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you don't want it, I'll drink it.
I tried to do it on the side.
I don't know. Maybe it was a little bit insulting. I don't know. It was just whatever.
Anyway, we're still together.
Whatever works.
We did keep talking, and then like getting to we eventually started hanging out more and getting to know who he really was and not drunk. Sober. I liked him. And it was like the littlest things that I liked about him. It was like him opening my car door. And to this day, 6 years later, he still opens my car door.
That's good.
And it may be something so little,
Take notice,
but
gentlemen.
It's
yeah, I've been slacking.
Anyways, I remember I told you I was from North Carolina. It's a southern gentleman.
He's very southern gentleman, but yeah, it's like little things like that because I've never experienced with somebody before, and holding my hand, like lifting me up, stuff like just stuff that you would. Well, I guess because I've never experienced it, it was just like, oh wow, that's the stuff that I liked about him. So I kept him.
You kept him.
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, just to add to that, like I loved Dani's, like what most everybody loves about Dani is her heart. Like she has such a big heart for other people and she cares about other people and she always puts other people's, sometimes to a fault, she puts other people's needs and priorities ahead of hers, and she always is checking on people. She's always like, how are you? Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? Like we'll be out with 8 people and she'll be like, are you okay? She'll kind of run down the line.
Come on.
Yeah. And so that was what really drew me into her, was just, she was just such a kind person.
But did you know that like right away? I thought you thought I was crazy or something.
No, I didn't think you were crazy.
I didn't like you for throwing away.
That is a little crazy. No, I mean, just from talking to her and, she always, would ask me questions like about me and stuff like that. And it was just very like, she's, like I said, she's just very giving and very like wants to put you on the pedestal and put you first, and sometimes I wish she would do the opposite, but it's what makes me, love her and appreciate her so much is her heart. So
the opposite as her putting herself in a pedestal.
Yeah, like just making sure that her needs are met and that she's like, sometimes asking for help and stuff like that.
I'm working on it.
She's getting better at it.
I think we're all a work in progress.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
So it was the first date, and then like you reached out to her afterwards, or she reached out to you?
We just kind of just constantly kept chatting and talking and stuff like that. And I think we went out. I met your friends the next weekend.
Yeah. I thought for sure he would be like run after that.
Yeah, she gave me a heads up. She was like, my friends are a lot. And we went to Deep Eddy. Yeah. We went to the distillery again. There's a lot of drinking in the early days. Not that we're not still, but and I met all her friends, and they were all loud and super out there, and they were great. I loved how they all have big personalities, and they're just fun. And like, she thought I would like run for the hills. And I was like, I love all your friends. They're like super fun to be around. And so that was great. And then we just kind of kept going from there.
Nice. And like now, I mean, when you guys are home, how's the dynamic, or what do you guys, usually?
Well, we got married 2 weeks before COVID started. We got married on 2/20/2020. So we like 2 weeks before the world shut down. And so that first
I was trying to do like math in my mind. I'm like, wait, 2/20. Okay. All right, we're good.
And so, like 2 weeks after that was when everything closed and everybody had to shelter in place basically. And so we, as a newly married couple, were like, all right, well, it's me and it's you, and we're in this apartment, and we're either going to find out if we really love each other or not, because we have nowhere to go. And it was like that for several months, and we got along so well, and it was great. Not, obviously the year wasn't great, the circumstances weren't great, but our relationship was great. And I think that was kind of the initial we're good. We're going to be, if we have to sit here and stare at each other every day for 6 months, I think we'll be okay once the world opens up again. So yeah.
That's good. But it's like, say, when it comes to, agreements, disagreements, what are some things that you guys usually how do you guys come up to a midpoint?
That's something that I'm still working on.
I think we all are.
Yeah.
Again, it goes back to what we were saying earlier about people's impressions and social media and stuff like that. We'll have arguments and stuff like that. And I can be, she can be a little, closed off. Yeah. And I can be a little too sensitive sometimes when it comes to things. And she's a South Side Chicago girl, and sometimes she'll just tell it like it is. And I'm like the baby of my family, and I'll take it and I'll be like, oh, that hurt my feelings, that kind of thing. But that's how she was raised, and that's how I was raised. Yeah. And, I think as the years go on, you
made me sound like a bully.
you're just real. You're just a real person.
She pulled out her brass knuckles.
Yeah. And so,
which I do have, by the way.
There you go.
I might have to cut that part out too. But, so, we'll, the more we go on and the more years, we're together, I think the more we realize each other's viewpoints. Okay. And I think we take that more into consideration. It's not perfect, and it may never be a perfect, oh, you forgot to unload the dishes. I'm sorry, honey. Come here and give me a hug. I don't mind. We're couples. Couples fight, especially couples who are together all the time. We are together a lot. We're together, just outside of our work days during the week, we're basically together 24/7. Every weekend we're together all the time. We'll do stuff with friends, but it's usually together. It's usually we're together with a group of people. So it's we'll rarely have siphoned off, her with her girlfriends, me with some guy friends, trips and stuff like that. It happens, but it's rare. Yeah. So, you're always going to hit situations in that where you're just going to get annoyed with somebody, And
we grew up in totally different worlds. I grew up in such a toxic environment where we didn't know how to express, our anger, or we didn't know how to say, I'm sorry. So all of that is learning. We were just recently talking about this with one of my friends. I don't know how to get words out the right way, because I wasn't in that environment where someone was like, I'm proud of you, or, I love you, or something. So sometimes when I talk to him, it sounds like I'm exaggerating, but I really mean it. And before, he used to take it why are you saying it that way? Yeah. But it was because it's I don't know how to get it out. Yeah. I've never done it. You know what I mean? I've never been in an environment where I would say that. So I don't know how, but we're working on it.
Yeah.
And he came from a more healthier.
And I'm and I also mentioned I'm the youngest. I was I'm the baby of my family. And so it's, I wouldn't say that I'm spoiled, but I'd say I'm used to having attention on me, being the youngest and that kind of thing. And so, it's an adjustment. It's it's any relationship is a meeting in the middle, as much as you can, and working on that every single day. And it's never, it's never going to be that perfect union, but you just try to get to as perfect as you can. As the years go on.
Don't go to bed angry.
Yeah. I think we're pretty good at that. We try not to do that.
That's good.
Yeah. Like, one thing we always try to do is we always try to say, I love you and I appreciate you at the end of every night, like before we go to sleep. And it's just kind of a good, like, end of day, let's leave it there. And then even if we have some kind of issues, we'll get back to it. It's that old adage where you hear, like, if you're upset about something, think about, will you be upset about this in 5 years? And 99% of the time it's like, no. And so you just have to kind of remind yourself of that from time to time. It's hard to, though, when you're in the middle of some dumb argument.
Yeah.
And you're going back and forth at each other. And, I'll say something to kind of dig at her a little bit. And she'll say something to dig at me a little bit. And, and it can get kind of childish at times between the two of us. But, you just have to remember the big picture and remember your feelings for each other, and it'll be fine.
That's like say, for example, me and my wife, we're both like middle child. And we're both, first generation immigrants. I mean, we're both born in a different country. They come here and like hustle, like, I would say make ourselves known. And I think we both have, is we know that we both like have a strong drive, and that sometimes can be a clash.
Yeah.
Because we both are very like, we want it our way. Like, but it's funny because now you say with her, like, like I would say whether it's a kid or even like a dog is always going to be a resemblance. Any creature, right? There's going to be a resemblance of how you are. And then like me and my wife, we like, there's people that can't just be still and be quiet. And we both can be just watching a movie, like hanging out and chilling. Which is it's hard for people that have this strong, like, drive like that. We're pretty good at that. And then we notice that with my dog, our dog he's very quiet. He likes to chill, but he's also like stubborn little dude. But I think it is a mix of, it's a weird, like, interesting mix of, how our dynamic is like at the house. Like, especially like, say, for example, whenever we were pretty good at coming to like, okay, there's a midway, like, like you do this and I do this, and then we'll come together.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like cooking, we're like, let's just stay at each other's way.
Yeah.
Because I like to do how she likes to do one way, I like to do it the other way. And
I think we're pretty consistent when it comes to eating habits. Like, we like the same things for the most part. And
except for you don't like all the fruits that I like.
Yeah.
He doesn't like peaches, watermelon, cucumbers. And I love all of that.
Yeah. I don't know.
It happens. Hey, it's all for me. It's all part of the game. But one question is, like, say that was, that just came to my mind now is, Dani, like you come from, from a divorce, and you're, were you married in the past also?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How was that for you guys, coming into like another chance in a relationship?
I think it's definitely a big factor in realizing what you want and realizing who you are. Obviously every relationship is different, but I always like, I think we encourage our friends to be like, hey, don't get married until you're like in your 30s if you can, because you're still trying to figure out who you are in your 20s and like trying to figure out, this is who I am and I'm comfortable by myself. And if you're not here and if we weren't together, I'd still be able to be comfortable in my own skin. And I think we both, obviously meeting later in life, obviously, ideally we would have liked to have met earlier in life, but here we are. And we both came from past where we're like, all right, I was in relationships and situations where I didn't feel appreciated, or I don't, feel like I was made a priority by this person. And now, like, I realize that I'm not going to settle for anything but that. And we both have that same kind of mentality, and it works because then you appreciate the person for who they are.
We communicate a lot. That's number one. We communicate. Like, if I'm not feeling some sort of way towards how he is or whatever, we'll communicate. Well, I think that's important.
Yeah,
that's good. That's good. I always tell people, especially like Hispanic culture, my generation, when I was in high school, a lot of people got married or pregnant at a young age. So they didn't really get to experience a lot of stuff by themselves. Because when you're married or you're pregnant, you're thinking of someone else, and you're still young, so you don't have that time to develop who you are. But I always tell everyone, like, hey, the best thing you can do is don't get married till you're like 30, like after a career.
Yeah. And we're all selfish by nature, but I think
Yeah.
especially when you're like in your teens and 20s, you're really selfish. You know, I know I could speak personally, like I was a very selfish person. You know, you're figuring out who you are. You just want to like go kick it with your boys and like, you know, have fun. And like, and you're like, oh, you know, oh, I forgot, you know, this person wants to do stuff too. Like, you know, you're just, you're in your own head where like, you know, you get older, you mature, and then you realize, oh, you know, I need to put this other person first and make sure they're okay. And then I can, you know, and a healthy relationship also encourages each other to be selfish in certain things. Like, you know, she'll encourage me like, oh, you know, I have, you know, since I grew up in a different area and I've lived all over the place, I have friends all over the country. Mm-hmm. You know, my closest friends don't live here, and that's fine. But she'll also be like, go see your friends. So we're not
close friends?
Yeah, I mean, you know, closest, you know. Anyway, just kidding. And so she'll encourage me, hey, go see your friends in other states. Like, go fly and see them. You know, I'll miss you, of course, and it sucks that you won't be here. But, yeah, also. And I'll do the same for her. Like, I'll be like, you know, you need to go on trips with your girlfriends.
I'm trying.
And she's not good at this. Like, and again, like I mentioned earlier.
I hate flying, first of all.
Yeah, that's true. But like about not being able to, you know, not being great at putting herself first at times. That's why I want her to like go do stuff with like her friends and stuff like that and be selfish, because she, you know, a lot of her life, she hasn't had a chance to be selfish. And so I want her to be able to do that. That makes me happy, you know, seeing her like, you know, realize her dreams and doing fun stuff, you know, where she's like, I like doing this and I'm going to go do this right now. That makes me happy. I'm like, all right, you're happy. I'm good. As long as you're happy, I'm good.
That's good. That's good. When you guys met, you guys like you had a daughter, and you know you didn't have any kids. Mm-hmm. No? How was, like, say for you, as you know, coming into a relationship where there's like a child involved? How was that for you?
He didn't want kids ever, so I mean he welcomed my kids like right away. He loved them, but it was probably easier for you because they were grown.
Yes, I was about to say that's a huge factor. They were older when I met them, and so I just never grew up as a person who really wanted kids, and I was never like saw myself as like the, you know, 2 kids and a picket fence and like, you know, household kind of thing. It just wasn't my personal dreams and wishes. And so yeah, when I met her and she was like, oh, I have 2 kids, and I was like, oh, how old are they? And I mean, what were they, like 10 and 17 at the time. I was like, oh, cool. I was like, that's cool. I was like, you know, kind of thing where I'm like, I don't have to like teach somebody how to, I'm not like, I don't have to like teach you how to like put on pants or like tie shoes or ride a bike. Yeah. Like, cause I probably wouldn't be very good at any of those things. Yeah. And so, it was, you know, I was very welcoming to that situation, and they were a blessing, you know, in my life for sure.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. And Dani, like for you, how long were you a single mom after the divorce?
Not long, because I met him while I was ending my
divorce. Okay.
Divorce. Yeah. So we didn't believe in marriage, or we were like, we're never getting married.
Yeah.
We're gonna just have fun and whatever. Yeah, we lied.
Yeah. We got married 3 years later.
Yeah. Got engaged a year later, married 2 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to know more about like your kid. I think it's the first time I've ever asked you about, you know, your kids, and I want to hear more about it. And you know, like say you have 1 child right now, and then Yazzy. Can you tell me more about your kids?
Yeah, Leo, he lives in California with his dad.
Okay.
And Yazzy passed away 2 years ago last week.
Yeah, last week.
What else do you want to know?
Let's start with Yazzy. Like, how old were you when you had her, and you know, having a kid, you know, how did that change your life?
I was young, like what you were just saying about girls don't get pregnant in high school. I was a teen mom. I got pregnant with her when I was 15, and I had her when I was 16. I married young. I married a Palestinian. In their culture, they marry young. So I was married for about 20 years. So we raised each other. I raised my best friend.
Nice. And from like say what are the things you how was Yazzy like growing up, and then what was her character like?
She was a fireball. She was fierce, a sassy little thing for 4'8".
Yeah, she was tiny.
She was tiny, but she was nobody you want to mess with.
She was, as I always told her, you are your mother's daughter. She was her mother's daughter. She was a force. She didn't like something, she would tell you. She would let you know. She would use 4-letter words to do it. She would get her point across. She was in roller derby, so she was
a bit of a celebrity in the roller derby community.
Okay.
Yeah,
she was skating for since she was 8 years old. So when she skate, it was like she was floating. It was like breathing for her. It was so effortless.
Yeah, that just in that sport fit her personality perfectly because she was
able to hit people.
She was able to hit people. So she was just a tough. She was just a tough little girl. And so though it was, I think her brightest moments were when she was on the track, like doing derby, and I got to see a little bit of that. Obviously coming in much later into her life. But it was a joy. Like we would in just skating in general for her. Like when
it's a safe haven.
Yeah. When we would during COVID, obviously we had a very small circle of people that we would hang out with, and obviously Yazzy was one of those people. And we would do these skate nights where we go to the Long Center and just, because we're like, oh, this is safe. We can go to the Long Center and kind of stay socially distant and all that stuff and be outside and, with open air. And so we would go up there and just skate like once, we'd go up once a week, and Yazzy would join us every couple of weeks or so. And I don't know, it was just always a joy when she would show up because she was just amazing to watch. Because she just like, it's, when you watch somebody at a sport they just make it so effortless, it's kind of like when you watch, it's like Messi in soccer. It's like when you watch him like dribble through like 5 players and like, you're like, I could never do that if you trained me like 10 hours a day for like 10 years. I couldn't do that. It's just that natural ability that he has. That's what she had with skating. And it was just like, she would just lace up skates and then just I'd be like, I'd be skating like I look like a deer, like, just trying not to fall over. And then she would whirl by and do like 360s, like do skating backwards and like just be listening to her music on her headphones. Like it was nothing, and it was just awesome to watch. It's like one of my favorite things in the whole world.
Try to get Sean to skate backwards.
Yeah. I still
How did that go?
Yeah. Well.
It didn't go.
I mean, she could do handstands. Yeah. Like we have a video of her like one night when we were out there and she was like, just for fun, she would like do cartwheels, like while wearing skates, like on cement. Like
and then on a skateboard.
Yeah, she would climb on a skateboard and like like a stunt woman. Yeah. So yeah, just you just have a gift. Like some people just had a gift.
Yeah.
When it comes to things. That was her gift for sure.
One thing that like say you say she was half Hispanic and half Palestinian.
Yes.
Did she speak Arabic as well?
Yeah, a little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How was coming from two different cultures, like a mix? How was that for her? Because I'm pretty sure, like, I mean, we're both like very strong rooted cultures. Mm-hmm. How was she like with that aspect?
How was she? She was very defiant about everything. So I decided that she was going to make those decisions when she grew up. She was born Catholic, but then she was automatically Muslim, I guess, by birth. And so I was just like, when you get older, you can make these decisions. It was like a constant fight between me and my ex about what she's going to be, where she's going to do, stuff like that. So let's just say she was really defiant.
She also kind of just gravitated towards like neither sometimes.
Yeah,
also.
she was more spiritual than anything. I don't know if that would be considered a religion, but
yeah, I mean, she was, she's kind of, she was obviously young, so she was just kind of figuring all that kind of stuff out. It kind of goes back to the talking about like, where you are when you're younger in life and realizing what things are and what they aren't and trying to figure out your belief system and not just the belief system that, was given to you by your parents. Like, what do you believe personally? And it may be the same thing, and that's great. But, yeah, I think she was in the process of kind of just figuring all that kind of spirituality stuff out.
Yeah. No, and that's good, like, how you didn't, like, pressure her to be one or the other. Because, like, I grew up Christian, And my parents were actually they encouraged us, but they were never very pushy to, hey, you have to be this way. But they always said, hey, just be careful. Like, God is looking. And I was like, well, well, I'm here. But it's always been a thing where it does help when a parent doesn't really like push someone to or force someone to do something maybe they don't want to do.
Yeah, I was raised Irish Catholic. My parents are from Ireland, and so but it was also kind of the same vein where they didn't push me. They, we would go to church, and I was obviously did like confirmation and communion and all that kind of stuff. But it was never like do this or else. It wasn't like let's shove you into church. Yeah. They were very like, all right, we're gonna go to church. Like, is that? And I was like, okay, let's do that and whatever. So
we were the opposite. I grew up in a very heavy Catholic household, and religion was shoved down my throat. So we had to go to mass like every Sunday and on the holidays, and my mother used to make us watch those. I don't know if you ever is this every Mexican household, or they would have those the 10 Commandment videos, and she would always make us watch it. Yeah, so very different.
I remember when we first became Christian, my dad had a store and he would sell alcohol, but then he's like, no, we're not gonna sell it anymore. He was telling me, yeah, like the guy that helps, me in the store, I call him to the warehouse, and there's a sink, and they're like, all right, man, this is what we're gonna do with the beer. We're gonna pour it down the drain. I'm like, Dad, you could have saved that beer for when I was older and given it to me.
Might not have tasted that great.
Yeah, he was
thought that would have counted.
It is a thought. He looked at me. He's like, I guess this is who you are now. But it's like now it's an interesting thing because, like I always tell my dad, don't think of okay, we grew up Christian, right? We're very you can't drink, you can't listen to secular music. Like, how about instead of focusing on that aspect, you don't focus on actually what we're doing with our life? Because I can not drink and I can, not do all these things, but if I'm not doing anything productive, it cancels out. But, you see me, having a drink every once in a while or like saying a cuss word every once in a while, or you see me doing something that is like productive in life, then focus more on the actual, like, behind, like the principle behind the stuff that we do.
Yeah.
And, now it's funny because my dad, I was telling them about a recording that we're gonna release this week, and it was like heavy, cuss words and whatnot. And I told my dad, like, yeah, there's gonna be some cuss words. And like, how the cuss words are, like, some are pretty light, some are not that, it's pretty heavy, but you're gonna enjoy it.
So apologies for Danny's language earlier.
Oh, you can't swear?
Oh yeah, no, you can swear here. No, you can swear here. But I was telling my dad because my dad doesn't like hearing cuss words. So no, he's cool. Yeah, no, he's cool.
He's always like on me about that because when I'll go visit him at the studio, and I don't know if it's the Chicago in me or what, but I don't know and he's always like, Danny.
Yes, the number one thing you learn in broadcasting is every microphone is a live microphone. That's the number one thing. And so coming to the studio where I'm broadcasting to the whole city, and I luckily, because I'm a professional, I will make sure the microphones are off. But she doesn't know that. There might be the one time where I accidentally leave it on, and she'll be like, F this and F that, and I'll be like, no, this is not our kitchen. It's my place of work.
I was like, was I swearing? He's like, yes.
Oh, really?
I don't know.
No, that's cool, but it's just one of those that, like, it's I think with parents and dynamics, it helps whenever as the parents get older and they see like their kids doing something in life and they focus on that one thing they're doing right. Okay, you know what? That should offset like the negative part.
I feel like that's a generational thing. I feel like, the generation before us is very, like, when it comes to religion, and I can speak personally just for like Catholicism, there was so much of that ritual, you have to make sure you say your Hail Marys and say, like you were saying, like, you have to do, this particular thing and go to church and, you have to read this and do this. And if you don't, literally all hell is going to break loose. And it kind of forgets the big picture of like, why are we doing this? Like, it's like, it goes, obviously we just had Christmas and there's all these stories about, the birth of Jesus and, and the idea of like, it should be about helping the poor. It should be about like helping your fellow man. That's the whole kind of big picture reason for religion, at least hopefully it is, to be better people towards each other and make the earth a better place, and that kind of gets forgotten as opposed to like, make sure you say your Hail Marys and make sure you hit your things. And it's like an assignment sheet, kind of thing. And I feel like this generation is a little bit more loose when it comes to the rules of organized religion. And it's more about the mission of like, be good to each other.
That's the one thing. Be good to each other.
That's right. It's the one to grow on.
Yeah. So like say Yazzy and then your 10-year-old son, what is he?
He's 15.
Oh.
He is a track star. He does track.
Okay.
But I guess he's more of like a boy. He wasn't like my daughter. My daughter was very close to me, and I don't know if that's like a girl boy thing, but he's just a boy, and like he's in that age where he doesn't want to, you know what I mean? He wants to do his own thing, and I don't know. You're a boy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I'd say that. Yeah. And especially,
boys are different.
Yeah, boys are different, especially, teenage boys they go through, all the boys in the room can say we go through a lot of changes, I think, during that time.
A lot of changes
in your life. And so, he's kind of like at the point in his life where Yazzy was at that age, where like, he's figuring out who he is and good, bad, and indifferent, kind of on his own journey. So which is great. He'll get it all figured out.
That's good.
Yeah.
And what's his name?
Leo.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Like say more about like Yazzy. She passed away a couple of years ago. How did that like change? I'm pretty sure that there was a big change. How were you guys able to manage, the passing and also like try to move on, because passing, it can be a very tough, situation to live.
I don't think we will ever move on. There's no like getting better. I know a lot of people, and I have to like remember that people don't know. So I got to remind them that it's like, I'm never going to get better. It's kind of like it will always be there. I'm just growing around it, but I don't know.
It's like you learn to live with it,
mm-hmm.
as opposed to it changing. It never changes.
Mm-hmm.
Like your life never is the same ever again.
You're never the same.
No, and we'll never be the same ever. We'll never, be to that level of, I don't know, happiness or general life happiness. But you don't let that stop you from trying to live, because she would want that. She would want you to have a great life, and she
didn't like when I was sad or
And so you try to live your life with purpose. You try to live your life in honor of someone who can't live their life anymore. And so I think that's part of what we try to do is, you just try to go out and think, what would she want us to do? How would she want us to live? And she, like, to your point, she didn't ever want you to be upset or be sad or anything like that. Or, she always wanted you to be happy. And you just have to remind yourself of that from time to time, because, there's no day is ever easy. Like, none of our days over the past 2 years have been easy. Not a single day has been easy. But you find moments and days where you let yourself forget about things and you let yourself just enjoy a moment, kind of thing.
Then you feel guilty, and then it's like a revolving,
mm-hmm.
like sadness and joy at the same time.
Yeah,
every day is different.
Yeah, and another thing, I want to thank you for asking about her too, because I know a lot of people out there, like, especially and people, and if you've dealt with any loss in your life, especially someone like a loss of a child, but anyone, like, a parent, a brother, a sister, whatever, exactly what the routine is. The first week, 2 weeks, everyone's like, how are you? Are you okay? How are you? What's going on? Do you need anything? A month, your friends, the social friends probably stop asking. Your friends and family, they keep asking, are you okay? And everything okay? 6 months goes by, and then it's just like your closest friends are like, are you okay? And then it's a year, and then like no one is asking you. And this is, I'm sure this is the same for everybody.
It's like the loneliest thing.
Yeah, and it's like, and it only people ask again, like when the anniversary of her passing comes up or her birthday or stuff like that, where it's like, then people are like, oh yeah, how are you? Are you okay? It's okay to ask. It's okay to ask. It's okay to talk about, you know, people who aren't here. And I love talking about Yazzy. Yeah. Like, you know, I miss her every minute of every day, but I love talking about her. And it's kind of like when we were getting ready for this podcast, I was thinking about like, you know, it's like the movie Coco, which it sounds so cheesy to say, but it's like, you know, when people truly die, when you stop talking about them, you know, it's when you forget about them. That's when people are truly gone, and she's never going to be gone because I want to talk about her every day, and I want to, you know.
And it's noticeable when people avoid talking about her, and I don't want people to avoid talking about her because it's making me feel like she never existed.
Yeah. And I get it, and it's hard for people. Like, I get it, especially it's not like, you know, it's not like my 99-year-old grandmother passed away where it's like, that's sad. Yeah. But, you know, she lived a full life. You know, Yazzy was 21, you know, and she'll always be 21. Yeah. And so I get like, it's hard for people to be like, hey, I don't know how to bring this up. Or like, you know, I have, you know, pictures of her all over like our house and stuff, or like in my office and stuff. And like people will come in and like, I can tell that like, if they know what happened, like they won't ask about it. They're like, you know, they'll just kind of like, oh, how are you? Like, you know.
Yeah, my workplace totally avoids that conversation. And generally it makes me so angry. So like, don't make me feel like she doesn't exist. She existed. I want to talk about her.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I might cry, but
yeah, and it's obviously it's going to be sad, but obviously there's tons of stuff. You know, we have tons of stories about her and stuff and everything that we love talking about. We laugh. We'll say stuff about, you know, her all the time where we'll laugh, like, and we'll laugh about stuff that she did. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean we're not like, you know, incredibly sad every day, but there's those moments like, you know, you want to make sure those things continue. You want to make sure that, you know, people aren't forgotten and that those great things and that great person is like lives on. And so that's
one thing that I'm working on recently is I always get the pity look from people. You kind of give it to me right now. Like the pity look, like you feel so bad for me. And, it makes me so angry. Yeah. Because I'm like, you're going to die too. You're all going to die. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're going to bring the room down. But it's true. We're all going to die. Yeah. And I don't get why it's not talked about more often. You know, I'm, you know what I mean? To some extent where like we should be making these arrangements now or writing it down at least or discussing it with your family, you know, because a lot of things, you know, I don't want to get too deep. I didn't know. Did she want to be buried? Did she want to be cremated? Did you know what she like? It was like all those decisions I had to make on her behalf. Mm-hmm. And then dealing with like the cemetery, like I wish I would have visited the cemetery beforehand. And, you know, that's one thing that I want people to know is if you are going to be buried or however you're going to be, wherever you're going to be, go visit that place right now and see how they treat people and see how they treat the people that are there.
And if you're hearing that and thinking, oh, that's morbid, get over it. Like you said, we're all going to end there someday. So
death is a thief. You can be the healthiest person, you can be the youngest person, you know, the fittest person and whatever. Death is a thief.
Like I had like when my grandma passed away, she passed away almost about to be 2 years. Sorry. And like I always, for me and her, our relationship was very like shooting the shit with each other, like I throwing shade at each other. Like that's why I joke around like strongly sometimes because like I got it from her, I would say. And then like even up to like the last day, like I saw her. I think the last recording we had for Pasión Verde. It was right outside, and then we were just doing our the last shots or interviewing each other. And my mom, I was on the way to meet Fagu really quick at the Hop Squad. And then my mom calls me like, hey, just be prepared. Your grandma will not make it. I'm like, all right, cool. She's like, just be on standby. We're already arranging to go to Mexico. I'm like, all right. Yeah. And then, so going there and then going over there with you guys, and it was cold and I forgot my jacket. I'm like, well, fuck it. Like this, let's do it with a shirt on. That's why I have my shirt on. And then, actually, because I think I let you borrow my jacket. I don't remember. and we were there, and then it was then afterwards, one of my friends, he was releasing he was a movie director, and he was releasing the movie he had worked on, and he had a viewing party at the Alamo Draft House South Congress. South Lamar, sorry. And then my mom calls me. I get a call from my aunt, like literally in between both of those movies. And she's like, hey, so this is your goodbye to your grandma, like basically. So I'm like, all right, cool. Like, I'm going to do it the way I know how to do it, which is joke with her. So I threw a joke with her, and she's like already like, like passing. I told her, hey, I love you. And she's like, I love you. But I told her like, because I like joking with people. Like my other grandma, she told me I look like a Taliban because I had a beard. So that's like a charitable. But it's like, that's just, like the fact that like, hey, she said something like literally like passing away. And she wakes up and she's like, you look like a Taliban dude. And I'm like, all right. I guess this is going to be like something that I would think for the rest of my life, and I enjoy it. Okay. And then like the other one, like she's like, everything hurts. And I'm like, hey, are you still hungover from yesterday? And she's like, everything hurts. But I saw her give like a little smile because she's like, okay, like, which is for me, like, that's how I want it to be. Like, it's how you, whenever someone leaves this world, how you, of course you miss them, and, things change, but it's like whenever I think of my grandma, like, she's gone, but like, she's in a better place.
Yeah.
She's not suffering, but I didn't get to see her personally. Like both of my grandmas, I didn't see her personally, but I got to see them, or hear from them or whatnot. And I think for me, it's kind of hard to like bring something like that up because I don't know how to do it. Because I've never really, anyone that I'm really close to, I've never really like gone in front of them like when they're like in that moment in person. It's always been over the phone or Skype, so you don't know how to react, or you don't know like I wouldn't say, maybe it would have been different if I was there. So it's like, okay, but how can I ask like in a respectful way, but also like in a podcast, how can you talk about it, but it's still like, like what do you, how can you talk about it? What can you say about it? But the fact that you guys are saying like talking about her keeps her memory alive. That's an amazing thing to say.
Yeah. Yeah. And we try to take her with us everywhere we go.
We made stickers.
Now we literally take her with us everywhere we go. We made stickers of her skating. And, we'll kind of go to some of her favorite places, or some places we thought that she'd like to go. And then we'd find a little place and we'll put a little sticker up. So it's kind of like a list. Yeah, I have a list in my phone of like all the places that we've put her sticker up around town here in Austin. And then like we went to New Orleans, where she used to love going. And so, we went to New Orleans and put pictures up or put stickers up on like, places in the French Quarter, and we're like, oh, this way I'll, think of, her always being there in one form or another. Like we were in New York last week, and I put a sticker of her on the Brooklyn Bridge. So she's chilling on the Brooklyn Bridge right now.
Nice.
Like so, all the places, she would have loved it.
Yeah.
All the places she would have loved. And all the places she loved, want her to be there.
Yeah.
That's good. One more question is, you post a lot of pictures of her on social media, and they're like beautiful eulogies. Am I saying the word right?
Yeah.
Eulogies. Mm-hmm. Well, how do you find motivation? Or the motivation is there. Like, it's your daughter, of course. You're talking about it, but like, say, what is like when you're writing something? Is something that you think of as when you're posting it about it, or something you thought of prior to that picture?
It's a little bit of both. I feel like creeping up to like anniversaries like that, or birthdays, I have a habit of writing my notes on my phone, and until it's like it forms sentences. A lot of it is like rage texting to myself, like whatever. But it's a lot of it is beforehand. A little bit is day of, I think, or day of the post or whatever. But yeah, and then I'll ask him. I was like, "Does this sound readable?"
Yeah, I'll be her editor. Yeah. But she, like I mentioned earlier, she has a huge heart, and she wants to take even the most awful thing that could ever happen to a person and use it to maybe help one other person. And I think that's one of the main motivations for her posts in general, but especially about Yazzy, is like, this is the kind of subject matter that people don't want to talk about, because it's hard, man. It's super hard. And it's something we live with every day. And people out there who are watching this or listening, like, I know what you're going through because it sucks. It's super hard. You don't want to talk about it sometimes.
Nobody wants to be part of.
Yeah. And just the fact that she'll put these posts out just to let people know, hey, you're not alone in going through this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And that might just be the only message that she gets through to somebody. And that's fine. Like, they might not even read the rest of it, but, or like, connect with the rest of it. But just the fact alone that she's being like, hey, I went through the worst thing you could ever go through, and I'm still here, and you're going through the same thing, I bet, and you're still here. And just the fact that we're both still here is enough to celebrate today. Worry about the rest of it tomorrow. You're still here. Just keep moving forward. So I think that's one of the big motivations for her, and finding strength in numbers. And,
in my head, it's like, if I can't help myself, I could help somebody else.
I think you've helped. I mean, personally, you've helped me a lot. Like, because this year it was I've shared some stuff to you, and it's like, but then reading some of the things that you post, it's like, dang, like, okay, cool, all right, let's do it. I mean, I'm pretty sure, like, I'll find motivation to keep going, but also like, just having that extra boost, like it's always helpful because, like I said earlier, you never know who's reading your post, and at the end of the day, it's like we're all humans, and it's a part of life that it's a tough subject to talk about, but not talking about it can also stop that memory of that person that's not here anymore.
I'm surprised anybody reads my stuff. It always shocks me when this happened a few times where somebody in Vegas actually spotted me out in a crowd and was like, I just want to say thank you.
Wow. Did you know that person?
No, not at all. It was just so random.
This happened last month too. Remember we met somebody on the east side.
Yeah, on the east side.
Like
somebody
1 a.m. Somebody came up to her.
I was like,
hi, she'd never met before, and she recognized both of us from her posts.
Yeah.
And was like, hey, I follow you, like, in your husband. And and she was going through grief. Yeah, also.
She was talking about that too, and it was like, I was like, oh wow, somebody's reading my stuff.
That is so dope.
Yeah,
that is so dope. Let's take a quick break because we're gonna bring out the champagne, since we're like, this episode is gonna be released before the New Year's, but even if you're listening or checking out this episode afterwards, celebrate the whole year. What the hell?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so we're gonna do something I've never done before in this podcast, and let's pop a bottle of champagne.
Yes.
So
this is like a rap video breaking out all of a sudden.
This is where I make my ancestors proud, or they will be, I'll be the laughingstock of the family.
We'll have to find out. Well, you got to take the thing off her.
Well, I read on
don't even hit your face
on Instagram that if you do it this way, keep in the cage, then you don't worry about popping it out.
Really?
So I've been like looking at videos. I'm like, all right, let's not mess it up
for this moment,
just in case. I've been preparing. I like to prepare. I like to prepare sometimes. Like there's things that I like to wing it, but there's things that are like, okay, there's gonna be something going on here. So today's the day.
I'm not gonna complain about being served. Oh.
Happy New Year's. Yeah.
Good work, everybody.
Let me start with Dani first.
Yes. There you go. See? Like I was saying earlier about being a gentleman.
You tell me when, because I'm a heavy pourer.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's good.
We were just saying that we did not eat dinner before we came here.
We should eat dinner.
That was a bad decision.
Luke is gonna be straight from the bottom.
That'll be good.
That's good. Yeah.
Somebody's got to drive this train. So.
By the way, thank you, Duke, for being here.
Yes.
In the 1 and 2s,
Fresh
3s and 4s.
Covered in snow. We walked in covered in snow.
You met Santa.
You met
with Santa for the last 3 days, popping bottles of eggnog.
Does Santa have a video?
That's for the next podcast.
That's for the next podcast. See, I try to bring him here in the screen, but one day we'll have it. I think when we reach 200.
That's right. Next year we'll have 2 cameras. You can have a cutaway. Be back there working the switches.
Duke, you want some? There you go.
Hey.
There you go.
Yeah,
I did that on purpose. All right, so
this is on you to toast. This is you.
This is a toast for the new year. If you guys are listening to this episode, or whether it's on the 31st, Duke salute, or after the new year, everything's over. I just want to say, Happy New Year, and this is a quick celebration. I know next time we'll have like actual catering and chicken for.
Came to the wrong podcast.
There's a little bit of budget for that already. I spoke to the guy that has the wallet, and then cheers.
Cheers.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year,
everybody.
Happy New Year's, Duke.
He's already drinking it.
Ooh, that's good.
Corbell, thank you for sponsoring this
Shout
episode.
Out Corbell, gang.
Just want to talk more about like your work, your line of work. How were you introduced to you? Well, your passion was always marketing, but radio. Mm-hmm. But were in finance first or business, and then
I went to school for business administration. I'm not gonna say where because Sean forgot, and
This is a running thing.
Yeah, he forgot where I went to college.
Okay,
so I won't tell him until he figures it out.
Yeah,
and I'm like, you can't go look on LinkedIn either because it tells you who's been looking on
LinkedIn?
Your page. Yeah.
No.
Anyway, so
anybody knows, hit me up. Let me know on the low.
Do not.
I'm not gonna say nothing.
I'm thinking in my head, damn, I shouldn't have said that because now I know like 5 people who will be like,
No, I don't. I actually don't need the help. One day.
I'll be on my deathbed and be like,
3 more bottles of Corbell and I'll ask you.
Hey, we got some bucanas. If you want to feel buchon, we got.
Lord. We're recording this on a weeknight, but this is a bad idea.
So I'm doing nothing that I went to school for, and it's fine. And I love what I do.
That's good. And like a little bit of marketing, it's how can people just get involved in the line of work that you do? Because marketing, for some it's just like it's just marketing, but I'm pretty sure there's a science behind it or an art behind it.
There's a lot of degrees behind advertising, but I think I got lucky because I was hired for a different position than what I'm doing right now. But because of COVID happened, I took on like all these different roles. So I passed that degree step of what I needed to actually do what I do.
That's good.
Yeah.
Good. And then, working as a DJ can be a dream. Is it a dream job?
Yes.
But what are the challenges like you think the industry has faced or you have faced personally?
Sure. Well, radio in particular has faced I would say, first of all, they face kind of a false perception of it being a dying medium. Like I think when people hear about, oh, you work for a radio station, oh, I don't listen to the radio.
I said that on our first date.
Yes, she did say that.
I did.
Fun
I was
fact.
like, I don't know.
And a lot of people will say they listen to, audiobooks or podcasts, for example, or different forms of entertainment, and that's perfectly well and good. And I think one of the things that radio people want to stress to people who ask us about it is that's fine. I also listen to other things. Like you don't have to listen to commercial radio 24 hours a day to be like, oh, okay, I get it. Like I'm also a radio person. But I will say that radio, especially commercial radio, what I do is still the number one medium because I think it's 92% of people still listen to commercial radio because A, it's free. People love free. And B, it's in your car. So as long as radio is free and in your car, it's always going to be a factor in terms of like your entertainment. Mm-hmm. But that being said, we can't take that for granted as radio professionals because there are so many options. There are great options. There's satellite radio, there's podcasts, there's audiobooks, there's all types of great things. There's people's, Spotify playlists that they curate and everything like that. There's YouTube playlists. There's all types of stuff. So that needs to be used as something that drives us to be better. And as opposed to being, oh, woe is us, I guess we're, going to be all done here in a couple of years, because we won't. We'll be around. Radio will always be around. But that being said, there are, different people taking bites out of the pie now. And so our industry has been downsized, I guess is the word I would use. Like, basically when I started in radio, I was a DJ, and we had a promotions person, and we had a street team, and we had a marketing person. We had a whole sales staff of 10 people, and we had a GM. Now my office is, it's like 10 to 15 people, and we run 4 radio stations with a sales team, a promotions team, and an on-air team. Yeah. And there's probably 10 to 15 of us. And on top of that, now that COVID happened, I see 3 to 5 people a day in my office total. And again, 4 radio stations broadcasting 24 hours a day across Austin. And I see 3 to 5 people in my office every day. And we have a giant office that we've just cut in half. We just sold half of it because, again, nobody needs space anymore because we have, less employees. So that's a challenge because now I do a lot more than I used to. People get the impression of radio is like, oh, you just sit around and play music all day. I wish that was what I did every day. That would be so much fun.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. And that's how it used to be because, 20 years ago, there was a DJ and that was his job. Your job, it's like, the movie Barbie where Ken's like, my job is this. Your job was DJ. Like you would literally be in the studio talking over music for 4 hours. And then you'd go home. It was called like do your 4 and hit the floor was the term you used to do because you'd have a 4-hour shift and then you'd be gone. That was the only responsibility you had. Now it's like, I am the music director for our station, so I have to curate the playlist that you hear 24 hours a day. Every single song you hear on a radio station, I'm responsible for personally putting into a computer at some point, and then you now hear it. Due to, with research and audience participation, requests, and all that kind of stuff, all that kind of goes into the pot, and then we will churn playlists out for people what they want to hear. But I have to do that. I have to do on-air content. So find things to talk about like you do here with podcasts. Like that's a whole job in itself, researching, show prep. And then we have to do, now that it's 2023, social media stuff. That's a job. Like people don't understand social media is not just, oh, let me take a selfie, fun, done. No, that's as much, and y'all know this, working obviously with your positions over the past couple of years, that is a job that you have to put work into.
It's a full-time job.
All the time. And now there's jobs that in industries where companies are now hiring social media directors, for big salaries because it's a hugely important job to industries. So all that being said, I love all of it. If I didn't, I wouldn't do it because it's exhausting at times. Yeah. But that's the challenge for our industry is finding ways to continually stay inspired and stay motivated and stay on the grind and not get burnt out. It's like that balance of not getting burnt out.
Yeah, because I think it's not just about going to concerts and shows and
that's the fun part.
That's the fun part.
Yeah,
but
we did ACL Music Festival this year, for example, in October. We do both weekends. We're there every single day for both weekends. We're there for 12 hours a day. The first weekend, a majority of the interviews are lined up that weekend, and so it's doing interview prep, and she's doing pictures of artists and all that stuff. Again, this is not real. I'm not digging ditches. We're not nurses in an ER, waiting tables right now, in the weeds. I'm not complaining about our positions in life. These are great jobs to have, but they are a lot of work.
Yeah.
And it's fun work, but it's demanding work. And at ACL, for example, like I said, I don't think we saw maybe one artist a day. We'd jump out and see 30 minutes of an artist. Yeah. So the impression is not oh, you're in the pit hanging out for 12 hours, partying, watching 8 different bands play and just drinking all day and having a good time. Yeah. It's just a lot of running around. There's a lot of moving parts to it. Again, I'm not complaining about the moving parts, but there's a lot of behind the scenes things that go into the on-air front of house presentation.
That's I've gotten to experience 2 worlds with photography. Several worlds, right? One is the games. You're sort of watching the game, but also paying attention to so many details. You have to be ready for a shot, for anything. And then when you're like going to a concert and you get the first 3 songs, yeah, it's the first 3 songs, but that means like you have to be ready shooting when it starts. Yeah, you have 10 minutes.
Yep.
And you gotta have, for me, you gotta have at least 20 good photos out of those 10 minutes. But you have to deal with lighting, you have to deal with a lot of things, but it's a whole like art and science behind everything that like say you do, because at the end of the day, you also got to keep the masses coming. And how do you do that? Like being creative, finding ways, like how you say now, having a social media director. I mean, it's a lot of work, and the industry is changing. I'm assuming it's going to continue to evolve to, I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but I would say like radio for me, it's been like one of the most motivating medias to push me to do this, because I listened to radio a lot when I was younger, and I would be similar to you, like calling for a request or, and, but I also like interviews and like, all right, I'm never going to work in the radio station because I didn't go to school for it, but I can actually like start something. Yeah. So I think like your industry motivated like what we're doing now. Like,
and I would say like, and that's my favorite thing to do of my job is interviews, because it's like walking a tightrope without a net. It's like you go out there and you're like, okay, I could be as prepared as I ever could. I could know this person backwards and forwards, all about their music and their background. And I've watched interviews of them and I've done all my research. And then they sit down next to you and it's like, you're only 50% of the equation. It's like, it has to be the other person. There's a give and take there that has to happen. And you have no idea how it's going to go until they hit record, they point at you and they're like, go. And so but I love that because that's fun. It's like exhilarating to me. I'm like, all right, here we go. Let's see how this goes. And hopefully it goes great. And 9 times out of 10, it does, because artists, especially artists that we get to talk to, that we're fortunate enough to talk to, they've played the game before and they know how to do interviews. Yeah. They know exactly what you want to use for content and that kind of stuff. And so it's very easy and it's great. And it's not like pulling teeth at all. But it's just fun. Like that's to me, that's the most rewarding part about it, I think.
Nice. And then like, before we close, what are 2 moments that were like the highlight for you, for this year? And then what are like any plans for 2024?
Just in general highlights for the season?
In general,
the year for us? What were our highlights that we enjoyed the most?
It can be like, it doesn't have to be the same for both of you guys. It can be like separate. So just in case.
We were just talking about this. That's why I'm trying
to we were just talking about this. I was saying that I feel like I enjoyed watching my team grow. I feel like you guys really levitated. You, Duke, Javi, Jeffrey, just pursuing different things. It like, because I'm always telling you guys, don't make it all about soccer. Do different things. Don't have just one. Get some exposure. Whatever. But it's just I feel like that's one of like it's up there. Watching your growth.
Forget Duke. No,
I'm proud mom.
Yeah.
Good. Well, hey, we do what we can. We do it to make you proud, Dani.
That's right. Yeah. If it comes to like, if we're talking about FC stuff, I think the highlight of the year, and it was a long season if we're being honest with ourselves, but I think my most memorable thing was the hailstorm night when we had the huge hailstorm at the stadium and the lights went out and the game went till 1:30 in the morning. And I think we ended up tying. It was like a tie.
Oh, against when Fagu came back.
Yeah. And so, it was like it was like September. It was like a September game. And there was a huge hailstorm. And like the minute we got to the stadium, they're like, "Oh, there's going to be a delay." And we're like, and it was a Sunday night game, and we had to work the next day, and we were exhausted. We'd done something else that weekend, and we were just exhausted. Yeah. And then it the hail happened, and then the power went out, and we were like, all y'all were playing in the rain and everything, which was just insane. And then the game didn't start till like 11:30 at night. And I remember just leaving, and I said this to you as we were leaving. It was like 1:30 in the morning. We left, and it was a tie. And I was like, I told her, I was like, 10 years from now, we're going to remember like 5 of these games. We go to all these games. We're going to like, they're just all going to blend into like one big blur of, FC games. But we'll always remember this one. This one we will always remember because we sat through a hailstorm and the literal power went out at the stadium. We will never forget this game. So I think that was probably my number one highlight, even though it was just a random tie for a season we didn't even make the playoffs.
We were like dragging out. I had roller derby practice that day. Remember?
That's what it was. Yep.
Yeah.
And you were sore from that morning.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, it's going to be,
You had a photo shoot.
Oh, yes. And a photo shoot.
Yep. And then the game.
Yeah, and then the game. Yep. So I was really dying. I don't know how I got through that game. That was crazy because we played even before the game actually started.
Yeah, y'all played for like an hour before the game started.
Yeah,
so you played like 2 games basically.
Yeah,
it was like a battleship. Just it was a crazy day. I think that day it was my aunt's birthday, so I went to Galveston the day before. But my whole family was in town, so we stayed up late, and Mexicans doing a party. Mm. I was hungover. I woke up. I went to sleep at 5, woke up at 7, got ready to be here early enough to get ready because I had a recording. And then go to the game for the record, after the recording. And then we also had to interview Fago after the game. So at the time I got home, it was like 3 a.m, and I think I was so tired that I was restless. Like you couldn't even sleep.
Yeah,
it was just like
you're like beyond tired.
Holy shit, we did a lot of that. And I'm still hungover.
Yeah. Hopefully we have. We'll have a better season this season.
Well, I'm for sure we'll do. I think as we during the off season, I don't really want to highlight a lot of the team because we do it for a good good chunk of the year. Yeah. So I like to highlight more stories, but we'll come back to those when the season starts. Yeah. Well,
just
before
the
season.
Later.
Oh yeah, in a couple of months, in a month, basically.
February 24th.
Yeah.
It's gonna come around like that.
Yeah. Now I think if it was my highlights were just one was I had a list before the year started of who I wanted to have, and then from that list having the last artist that was here, it's damn. And then I still had enough room to record for 2 months of random stuff, that came to my mind. But that was pretty cool because the highlight itself is just having that list and believing that you can, communicate or whatever, getting that done.
It's gotta be amazing to look back at this time of year to where you were a year ago with this podcast and be like, wow, this is
it's been an eventful year for the podcast. I think for another highlight, it would just be got my paperwork in for immigration. Yeah. So I think thanks to my wife for doing the paper, helping me with the paperwork, and I think next year is gonna be a good one. I think of course it's gonna have challenges and struggles, but I'm always this season is always my favorite season just because, especially New Year's, because you're starting fresh. Yeah. But, you're starting fresh for the foundation of what you did in the past. And I was okay, I can do this. I did this last year. Now we can do more the upcoming year. So, I think for me, it's just I'm motivated to do things. I'm ready. So
that's awesome.
But with this, we'll just close this episode. Once again, Dani and Sean, thank you guys for coming.
Thank you.
Dani, thank you for taking care of the team whenever you were in charge of La Murga. That was pretty cool, how we made that platform grow with a lot of creatives. And I think one thing that I wanted to add before we leave is it was never a competition between us, but it was more like a collective work. Yeah. And that comes from the person that's in charge, and
thank you.
You being in charge of it, we were all just
cheering each other on.
I've been part of teams in the past, and they're all good teams, but this team right here was special because this industry can be competitive, and you can be a lot of dissing or whatnot. Yeah. But the fact that, we were able to be under your wing and do some amazing shit. And always had our back and supported our ideas was great. So looking out for us. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Of course.
If you guys are listening to this episode, like I said earlier, whether it's before the year or after the year, you celebrate the whole year around. And wish you guys the best. Se cuidan, se portan bien, y arriba la América. America is the best team in the world. Club America.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year's.